I gotta introduce this girl because it's so funny how this business is. And if this hasn't happened to you yet in this business, it's going to, I promise you. And it is a race for outlets. You cannot get to people fast enough. I promise you this. I have multiple. There's another person on this call. His name's Joe Fissy-Haytow. I sold pest control with Joe for, I don't know, years. Sold for years with him. Tried to recruit him, and somebody apparently got to him a few months before I did. But then I show up at a meeting and he's on somebody else's team. I'm like, crap. And then it happened, the same team recruited another person that's been a family friend of my family for almost a decade. And then he ends up joining somebody else's team. And how did he meet that other person? They were at a camping place, at the same camping place as this team member, and the guy recruited him. Okay? So like, if you're not feverishly talking to everybody you know, you will miss, you won't miss them. They're going to find out that you didn't share it with them at some point. That's what's going to happen. They're going to find out that you didn't share it with them. So with Elisa, it's kind of funny. I got married to Elisa's best friend. So Charlie and Elisa, they've been friends since like grade school. They went to school together. Every holiday, Christmas, we have parties. They're friends. They have a strong friend group. Like I think they have an uncommonly strong high school friend group, which is awesome. I love it. But they're part of this friend group, and I start seeing Elisa start posting on social media that she's now part of WFG. I'm like, what the heck? I made Charlie, when I got married, this was before we got married, I made Charlie, my fiance, create a list of people for me to call. And I was like, we're freaking calling all of your friends. Well, I didn't end up calling all of them, and some of them stood me up, it didn't answer, whatever. Ends up that Elisa, and I really had no claim to Elisa, by the way, because once you hear the story, it doesn't matter. But it's funny that she's in this business, and we were neck and neck. She actually went senior marketing director like 2 or 3 months before I did. She's absolutely crushing it, and that's like part of the cool story about her. She has all these extracurricular things that are also cool about her. Phenomenal singer, has been in multiple singing groups that just go out and sing publicly for fun. She's a great human as a woman. She decided, you know what, I want to be a foster mom. So as a single woman, she decided to be a foster mom because she could. She had the life stability, the income, the ability to do that, right? She's still not married that I know of, unless something happened in the last 2 months or something. But hey, it moves fast in Utah, so anything's possible. But she's still single. Okay, but she's committed to achieving her life goals no matter what is happening, right? She's not going to sit around and wait for other people to help her reach her goals, okay? But the long story short is her dad actually was a product provider for WFG for like a decade, or I don't know how long it was, but he was for a long time. And finally, Monty Holm, I think it's Monty Holm's son, Mike Holm, convinced him, one of the two, they convinced him to come work in this business. And so he went from being a product provider to working in this business. Now he's going to go CEO. I honestly, he's probably happier than he's ever been. He's having way more impact on people's lives. And one of those lives is Elisa. And it's so cool that added extra buy-in for my wife because her best friend's doing it. And then Elisa got to their whole friend group because they had more trust and credibility than I did as the newcomer husband. So anyways, it's good. I'm happy everybody's getting served and getting helped. But Elisa, take the time, and super grateful that you were able to hop on.
Yeah, good to be here, Sam. Thanks. I will give one correction to that story. My dad was not a product provider. He had a training simulator business that he was doing, and he would come and they would do some gameplays with WFG at conventions sometimes. And he went back to do it again after Monty Holm got back from his mission, got invited to go to the ranch, and yeah, the rest is history. But he wasn't a product provider, so he didn't know anything about the industry before.
Wow.
But yeah, so I'm gonna share my screen, share a little bit more. So I don't know if I have a different schedule than you, Sam, but I do have an appointment at 1:30. So I'll definitely, oh wait, no, I think, so 1:15 was when I saw that I was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Okay. So just want to make sure I'm on track with that. But yeah, so I definitely would say that I got help from my dad to go SMD. But if every parent could make their child go SMD, they would have done it by now. You know what I mean? So I know that it's not just can't just say that he did it all. I definitely had to do a lot of work, a lot of figuring things out and stuff like that. But I also want to recognize that I did have family support. Our family's big into this business. So Mary Black is my aunt, who went SMD within a year of when I went SMD as well. So we're all part of that same team. And it's fun to be able to have family involved. When you really treat this like a business, it really can be a family thing, right? It's something where in my family, it's not just about, this is a one little flick thing that my dad's doing or that I'm doing. This is our family business. And I don't know if you know this, maybe especially if you're new, when you first purchase your AMA, your membership agreement, and get that code, your code is worth the $125 that you spent on it. But as you build a book of business, and especially as you build a team, that's all connected to your code. And at some point in the future, if you choose, you can sell your business connected to your code. And people have done that in our company for millions of dollars, because that's the value that your business can be if you build it that way. In my family, it's definitely because I've taken the time to learn this business and I'm growing it. I fully expect to inherit my dad's business and continue to run it for time. And so WFG is a true business in the sense where it can be that. It can be generational. It can be something that's shared with families or sold, if none of the kids want to do it, or spouse, and then that, selling that business, it can, provide for the family and stuff like that. So there's so many blessings that come from connecting family to business as well. So I just had that thought as we started out here. Okay, so some of the things, hopefully these things have kind of been highlighted already, but I just wanted to say a couple of things. One of the biggest issues with women in the workforce is one of their biggest worries is they're terrified to ask for raises or negotiate pay and are severely underpaid because of themselves. Like it's culturally, we've built it up this way, but most women are not taking the initiative to fix this issue. They're just hoping that other people will fix it and that eventually they'll get paid what they deserve. And that's something that I love in WFG is you don't have to worry about that. You just do what it takes and you're getting paid the exact same as everybody else, that totally level playing field. You can also have family and work and do this also. As soon as I went SMD, like Sam said, I became a foster mom. I don't currently have any foster kids with me right now, but I had a daughter for a year, a teenage daughter for a year, and it's something I plan on doing the rest of my life. And one of the things that I love about this is you can fit this with your lifestyle. I have a sister who's licensed as well, but she's got a toddler and a newborn baby, and they are, so there's a little bit of there's a lot of that she's got on her plate, right? With a newborn and a 2-year-old. And so what she does is she will just, as she's connecting with, she's also a Relief Society president in her ward congregation, her church congregation. So basically that just means she's in charge of like the women's organization at church right now. So she's got a lot on her plate. And so what she does is when she connects with people that need what we do, she just refers them to come talk to me. So pretty much zero time that she's putting into this and has a great side income, hardly doing anything, working around with her family. So I love that as well. Another thing that I've seen here is I'll see women sometimes be like, it's so hard to just be like, okay, like we've decided in my family that, husband's going to work, I'm going to stay home. And we're just stuck with what he wants to do and he doesn't want to expand in his life. And so I'm stuck with that. And I love that something like this, where you can do it on the side, you can start working on your own thinking. You can take responsibility of your life and stop making excuses with other people. And that I've seen that grow a relationship so often, and that both then become they blossom more and things like that. So I love that that's a thing as well. You can also do this from anywhere in the world now with the Zoom era on any kind of weird schedule. All right. So here's some of the things as I was going SMD, things that I had to overcome in order to become a broker. And hopefully these things will be helpful if you're just getting started or if you're pushing on the door of it, that you can get through these things. So Number one is facing all the fears that I had. So I mentioned in the panel, I had that fear of running out of people to talk to. When I finally, pulled the chair from under me and just went all in, I found that literally because there's such a need for what we do, I don't run out. And then the issue wasn't running out of people. The issue was I was scared to talk to people. But when suddenly I couldn't eat unless I was talking to people, I was out there doing it. And that's what made that fear actually go away. It definitely was scary for a little while, getting down to the last of my pennies for a second. And then it all turned around, and it's just been, growing since then. And so I did have a time where my income did go down. Definitely not recommended for everybody to jump in without having, a giant emergency fund. But for some of us, that's what you have to do. You have to make it so you have to do it. And that was what happened with me. Also connecting with, having an approval addiction. I was so worried about what people think about me. And I definitely still feel like I have that. It's definitely come a long way. Part of the thing that helped me get over that is there was 1 year where I was like, okay, so my first 2 years in business, pretty much my first 2 years in business, I didn't do anything because I was so scared. Plus, we didn't have systems. I didn't know what I was doing. It was just a mess. So, but after those 2 years, I was like, I want to make this happen. And so I spent a year where I did 1 Facebook Live a month. So I was just like, I got to get over this fear of people. And so I just did 1 Facebook Live a month where I just taught a concept randomly, spent 10 minutes, and it took all my courage, but I did that once a month for a year. And that really helped break my approval addiction, because I was like, well, it's out there in public. And what it turned into actually was quite a lot of clients, because people were like, oh, you're into this now. And it didn't happen in the first couple of months. So by the end of the year, people started to transition from seeing me as the musical theater girl, because I just gotten my degree in musical theater, to, oh, she actually does know some financial stuff. We're transitioning in how we think about her. It took that, almost a year, but then it started to turn into clients, and it really helped cut back on my approval addiction. I also had a fear of teaching people smarter than me, or people that I perceived to be, in a lot, better situation, especially financially, but just I'm an oldest child. And I think anybody older than me seems, more advanced and stuff. I don't know if that has to do with it being an oldest child, but sometimes I'm intimidated by people older than me. One of my favorite things is aging in this business. Oh, I'm almost 31. I'm so excited. Because the gray hairs, I'm like, yes, people will trust me more because they'll think I have more experience and stuff. Anyways, but teaching people smarter than you, right? So, I had an experience where I'm very motivated by helping other people. So my team members, oftentimes I will do things for them that I won't do for myself. And so I had a team member out in a very small rural place in Utah. And she was like, I don't know who to talk to and stuff like that. And I was just so concerned about making sure things were good for her. I was like, I'm driving out there and we're going to go prospecting in your town. So I did. I never did that in my own hometown, but I went out to hers and we went from business to business. And I just said, and I was like, just watch what I do. And I was like, I've never seen anybody do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I so want her to win. And so I would just go into these businesses and I'd say, hey, we're new in the area. We're financial professionals. We'd love to get to know your business a little bit more and have you get to know us so we can kind of do some, back and forth business. And, some people, we didn't connect with everybody, but I remember one particular, it was a mortgage broker office. So we were obviously looking for places that, would connect with what we do, and went in and, just said that little spiel, and he said, sure, come on in, show me what you do. And I was like, oh, well, we can do what's called our free financial needs analysis, and then you can see exactly how we make recommendations. And he was like, great. So we sat down, we start going through everything, and I was like, how much do you make? And he's like, 400,000 a year. And I was like, oh, I've never even talked to somebody who makes that much, but I just didn't say anything, just wrote it down like it was normal and stuff like that. And, we ended up, he became a client and stuff like that. And it was just because I pretended like I knew what I was doing, and I did know what I was doing, but I put on that confidence, and that helped me as well break through that feeling of, being okay with that people smarter than me or that have more business experience than me actually do need what I do. So, sometimes you just kind of have to break through your barriers. And I invite you to do something hard so that you will actually break through the barrier, because if you don't, then you're just going to be stuck with where you're at. So if you're really serious about changing your life, do something to break through something that you're scared of. I had a lot of things to face. Maybe your list is as long as mine. Maybe it's not, but you just hack at them one at a time. I love Mary's example of chipping away. All right, so another one. Here's another thing that I had to face going SMD was some days I didn't want to work. So what do you do in those days? I love Ed Milet, who talks about how winners and successful people are those who do things when they don't want to. It's not a matter of just trying to stay motivated all the time. It's a matter of what are you doing when you're not feeling motivated? So here's some of my tips for dealing with those days when you're not motivated or you don't want to work. Number one, set timers. If you are still, really part-time, if you're new, maybe it's, I'm going to set a 10-minute timer to send out some texts or some calls right now. And then once that's done, great, at least I did that, or set a timer. I'm going to work on this case, for 30 minutes, and then I can take a mini break or something. But setting timers for me, sometimes that makes me at least get it started. And then I keep going and I'm fine. It's just that getting started. Also doing mini rewards for yourself for accomplishing things. For me, sometimes it's like, oh, I want to eat lunch, but I haven't finished all my contacts for today yet. I can't eat lunch until I hit my goal of this many contacts today. Then I can go eat lunch. That's a really big motivator for me, actually, because I want to eat lunch. Sticker charts. That works for me, filling things out, being like, yes, I did this today. I did something. Now that my sticker chart's filled up for the day, I can take my break or whatever. Working on vision and goals, that can be helpful. Taking a little walk, reading a book, calling a mentor, calling somebody on the team, hey, I'm not feeling it right now. Let them pump you up. That's totally allowed and okay to do. And I also, sometimes I get overwhelmed with all the things that need to be done. And so if I just have my list and then just put, okay, here's the things that are most important for bringing my business forward today. And always contacting ends up in that list, but at least having those things done for the day, I'll be like, okay, I really accomplished something today. Getting a drink of water, meditating, just doing it anyways, just pushing through is the hugest thing. But then I also have added quit for a bit. Sometimes that's helpful. If you're super new, maybe close your ears for that for a second. But sometimes if you've been grinding for a while and you're trying to push through and build a business, sometimes you have to give yourself permission just to quit for a bit. That's what I call it. I'm like, I'm not quitting forever. I'm just quitting for the next hour. I just need a break and then I can come back, because that for me, and everybody's personalities are different too. So only take from this today what's helpful for you. But I just call it quitting for a bit. So I can just tell my brain, yes, I quit. But then it helps me be like, okay, now I love this. I'm going back to it. It's fine. But I just mentally need to take a break. And it happens a lot of times when I take my little quits for a bit is I relax. And I, let my relax, I guess is the best word for it. And oftentimes when I'm the most relaxed about business is when I start getting the calls and texts from people reaching out to me. And so I don't have like a really nice way of saying this, but I feel like I get like business constipation sometimes, where I'm just like, oh, I just want the things. And I'm just so like, I gotta make this happen. But if I just take a second to relax, things flow again. People say yes better to me and stuff like that. So part of it has been getting to know my personality as well and what works for me. Next slide here. Okay, we've touched upon this a bit as well, but this is something that I see in myself and teams sometimes is, are you treating your business like a business, or are you treating your business like a hobby? So I had a team member one time, she told me, we had this conversation and she was like, on one of those password things, when it's, if you get locked out of your password, one of the questions, it said, what is your hobby? And she was like, I put WFG. And I was like, so you're mentally thinking about this as a little hobby thing. And that's maybe why you're not getting the results that you want. So she's like, I'm changing that right now. And she went in and changed her hobby on there. And this is something that I thought I was doing good with it. But then when I was getting closer to getting my SMD run, I was only, I was running. I one time went to my parents' house to grab lunch because I was just like, oh, nothing's happening. Like, whatever. I'm just waiting for people to put appointments on my calendar. Like, there's nothing else to do. So I went over to eat lunch at my parents' house. And my dad comes running out of a meeting to grab something before going back in. And he's like, oh, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm just waiting for people to fill my calendar because, like, whatever. And he was like, that's not the attitude of a business owner. And then he like runs back into his appointment. And I was like, oh, that's true. Like, if I'm waiting for other people to do stuff, like, what an employee mentality, right? So I definitely was like, okay, yeah, am I putting in the time? Am I doing what it's taking? You know, if I'm not getting appointments set by my people, you know, what am I doing to go and build my team? What am I doing to prospect more? You know, am I making sure that I'm putting in the time into my business and really treating this like a business? So that was a really helpful thing for me as well. So some of you who are new, if you were like me, recruiting is like a dirty, bad word. And I hated the idea of recruiting. And I think a lot of that was because I didn't feel like I was maybe like, why would people want to join me in something? So even though I loved the business and I loved doing it and I loved seeing the transformation in people, and I saw what happened in my family. So literally, my dad doesn't like to talk about this, but I do. He was bankrupt a year before he got started in WFG. And today he's putting in, you know, less than 5 years later from the time he was bankrupt, he's now saving $8,000 a month into investments, you know, into IULs and things. And that's a huge contrast, I think, going from bankrupt to saving $8,000 a month in a 5-year window. And that's only because of WFG, because of the business side of what we do. He was not having the income that would have made that happen 5 years ago. But now that he's making between $300,000 and $400,000 a year, which he's upset about, he wants to be farther along. I love how the mindset changes here, that like 300,000, he feels like he's a freaking baby here, you know? But that's been a life changer, a legacy changer. If you think about how much is in IUL, 8,000 a month going into IULs, how much insurance that has built. Now, anything happens to my parents, how that trickles down into generations, you know, and stuff like that. Like the whole legacy of me, my parents, of my generation, and all of our kids' generation and beyond is forever changed because of what we have here. I am so grateful for WFG, just how it completely changed the legacy of my future generations in 6 years. Like, it's incredible. But anyways, it took me a long time to get comfortable with wanting to recruit people. And part of that has come just having more confidence in myself, but also just realizing that, you know, even if I help 10 people a day for the rest of my life, I'll barely make a dent on everything here, on the people that need help. And so recruiting is blessing the lives of people that need what we do, but also really recognizing how it's impacted my family and the good that it's done for us. Like, don't I want that for other people? Don't I want to give other people the option to change their lives like my family did? Of course I do. So even if you're not comfortable with it today, that's okay. But just be open to the fact that maybe it will bless a lot of people, being open to sharing what we do. Which, speaking of recruiting a little bit, so this is one of those things where not everybody does this, not everybody's comfortable with this, sharing their specific financial situation. These are the 7 months, what it looked like for me before I went SMD. And I'm a millennial, so I think I'm less scared to like talk about like my financial situation or whatever. But anyways, these are the kind of things that I was tracking. And so I just kind of like to share it, so maybe you can get some like mental ideas of like, if you're a numbers person, kind of what some of this looks like. But one of the biggest things that for me stands out is I did have so my best month of growing my agency happened 2 months before I had my best points month in my run in order to hit the SMD promotion. And I think that those two are very linked, because it makes it so much easier to write more business and stuff like that when you've got a whole bunch of newer people that have newer markets and things like that. And you're just able to help a lot more families. So that's something that I just want to point out that stood out to me. Sam said I had a couple more minutes. So, okay, perfect. I think I'll get through all my slides here. So another thing I want to share is people are like plants. Some people are bamboo that, grow super fast. And some people are like saguaro cactuses who take a lot of time and you don't see the growth for a long time, maybe before you can see that, or maybe I got those mixed up. Bamboo takes a long time to grow and cactuses, they're super fast. And the reason why I bring this up is because in a lot of this, I think something that can be disheartening is comparing yourself with others. And I think for some people, especially if they've done other businesses and have other experience, they look like the cactuses that just shoot up really fast. And then there's people like me who for 2 years sat scared, crying in a corner, just wanting this, but not doing anything. But I had never done a business before. I had never done anything before. So it was so new to me. So all my experience is here in WFG. And so it's taken me a lot, like, a learning curve to kind of learn all of that. And so part of this is don't compare yourself with others. Their starting point is different than yours. All of us have different life experiences. But then also recognize that team members are this way too. And don't get so caught up. If you have team members that are just really not moving, still love them, but focus on finding new people to work with, because those people will take their time. If they're like me, they had slow starts, but I still came, and eventually I got there and made it happen. But it wasn't because tons of people were putting their energy into me. It was more like, so my dad, I would still see him at Sunday dinners. So it's not like I could totally disappear from this, But then finally, when I, came around enough and was ready, I did take off, but he was focusing on other people, building other legs and stuff like that to make that happen. So don't compare yourself. And then also, don't put all your time and energy into one person, continue to grow your agency and people will blossom as they're ready. Blissful frustration. This is another thing that I got from Ed Milet, how to be blissful and thankful for where you're at, but also wanting more in the future. And he calls it blissful frustration. And so this is something else that's really helped me, is learning to be really grateful with where I'm at, happy with where I'm at, and celebrating my wins. This was something where, affirmations come into big play. That's something you hear a lot about here. And one of my affirmations was that I wanted to speak at a WFG company event. And I would say that all the time and be really focused on that. And then I got to do it this last year. Yeah. In like September, we had like a WFG women's event that I was asked to speak at. And so I did. And then afterwards I was like, it took me a while. And then I was like, oh, it happened. Like the thing that I've been wanting to make happen. And so then I was able to like be grateful, like celebrated that win, and stuff like that. And so much in my life, I forget to celebrate the good things that happen, but having that happiness and that grateful feeling attracts more business to you as well. So find ways to make yourself be happy and grateful right now will actually attract more into your business, which will then help you not be so frustrated because you'll be moving more quickly. Sacrifice is a key ingredient. This is something that I think it was an easier concept for me than maybe some of my team members, because I've watched my dad and mom sacrifice to get this going. My mom did not love this at first. She fought my dad for a hot minute, but then eventually she's now more on board. But it has meant sacrificing some time together while he's been building this. And it's taken her a number of years, but now she's kind of on board with him as well. She's on board with him now. Doesn't mean she's licensed or things like that, but she helps with a lot of different team things and stuff like that more. So sacrifice to making business happen is something that wasn't necessarily a hard concept for me, and going all in and stuff, even though it was hard to be like, am I going to eat tomorrow for like that brief period of time? I got through it. But what I see a lot of people not even willing to do is sacrifice to come to the BPM training once a week or twice a week, kind of a thing. And if you're not giving this business something, then how can you expect to get something out of it if you're not giving anything? And so, and for me, it was at first, I was like, oh my gosh, doing stuff in the evenings, that's me time. That's, I want to do other things. And so there was bits of this that over time I had to learn to be okay with. But then what do you get in return? That's the thing. That's just, do you really want to not have a boss anymore? Do you really want dream vacations? One of my goals is I want to, one day be married with kids and take an 18-month cruise around the world with my family, and how many people can do that? Like, how many people can even put that on the table as an option? So, I mean, really, what do you want? Because if you want to live like everybody else is living, then keep doing what you're doing, right? But if you want to live differently, you're going to have to do things differently. And that means, giving up some evenings sometimes. That means giving up some Saturday mornings sometimes. So there's definitely things that need to be done if you want that different kind of life. And eventually they don't feel like sacrifices. I love having months where I make $16,000. Like, that to me is so fun, and so it's just like, and that's just getting started. Like, it's almost embarrassing. That's my biggest month so far, and so it's just, here in WFG, right? With friends in the real world or whatever, that's like, wow, how did you even do that? It's amazing, right? But in WFG, that's like, okay, well, you're getting started. So I love our reality of WFG. And I love my life that I'm getting because of it, even though it felt like sacrifices it was sacrifices at the beginning, but now it's everything. Also, a team doesn't show up if you don't. This is something that I had to learn too. I was like, yeah, okay, come join my team. Okay, now do your own thing. We definitely have better training than when I first got started on our team. But it's something that if you want people to be building with you and going with you, you need to be showing up to everything. It's not going to magically happen if you're not showing up. So again, maybe that's a little bit of that sacrifice, but sometimes it looks like you're doing things and it doesn't have a purpose or it doesn't have a point. And in this business, one of the things I had to get used to was the fact that things I do today, I'm probably not going to see the fruit for 3 months, 2 or 3 months. And so you feel like you're like, I'm doing all this stuff. Why is nothing happening? Well, it's because you're in the planting stage and the crops don't grow for a couple more months. And that's a mindset change that took me a long time to develop as well. The things that happen today don't show up for a couple of months. It wasn't until I've been able to look back over my years and be like, why is February always significantly lower than everything else? Oh, because I take December off. That's why. So it's like, I work so hard in February. Why is nothing happening? Oh, look at my March, April, May. Those months are always awesome because I'm like, I don't have any money because I didn't work in December. So then I work hard January, February, and then the months later are where that pops up. So you have to also train yourself with that as well, is to be okay with, or just mentally know that's how it works. The work and the results don't happen like when you're an employee where it's like, okay, I put in these hours this week, I get my money this week. It's a little bit different than that. So you just kind of have to get used to that and work with that. And so it teaches me that even on the months when I make, 10K plus, still got to keep working that month. Otherwise, I'm not going to have money in 3 months. So that was definitely something too. I was like, I got this huge paycheck. Let me take the next couple of weeks off. That kills your business. So you just got to be consistent and remember that the results and the work, they're not hitting each other as close as you're used to if you are used to being an employee. And some people have touched upon this. I've probably had a lot more approval addiction than maybe some of the other women on this call. But one of the attitudes I've just had to take is like, you know what? I'm doing things different than the people around me right now. And one day they're going to say, oh man, I want to live like you. I want to be like you. And it's like, okay, well, I put in that work to make that happen and you didn't. So, I'm going to have the results to show for that. That's kind of my attitude. And then my last little note here, I just wanted to throw in my last 2 minutes here is just working with male leaders. I just want to say this a little bit, and I love that there's males on here, so you can also know when you're working with females, maybe some of the things to think about. You've got to talk about how you're feeling about things, and you've got to talk if you don't feel comfortable with something, not in like a it's a bad thing, but like sometimes there'll be men that will say things like when I hit my watch, it was like, hey, get your ring. You know, it's like, okay, that was a big deal to get my watch for me. 50K is a lot more than most women make in Utah by a lot. And so just like, give me a second to be okay with that, you know? And so I don't talk like that to them, but it's just like, I talk with my direct leaders and just be like, you know, sometimes there's things that you say that make me shut down. And so here's some of those things that are not helpful for me. So let's work with me on my level. Maybe that's not how you talk to other males on the team, but if you want me to be working at my best, here's some of the things that you say that shut me down. And then that helps them be a better leader for other females on the team as well. And I do also have to make sure I stand up for myself sometimes in meetings. I think that's a little bit easier because my dad is my EMD. So I feel it's like a little bit easier to be like, no, I'm going to stand up for this. But I just invite all women to make sure that their voices are being heard and standing up for things, because there's definitely things that I think men don't realize are happening. And it's making women leave our business just because they don't talk about it, how they feel and what it's looking like. Whereas if you talk about it, you can get the help that you need. And then you can be big here. Seeking mentorship as well. Maybe you don't have a lot of women mentorship leadership in your office, but in this world of social media and stuff like that, you can send a message to Jamie Villalobos. If you send a direct message to her, she'll respond. And she's very open to doing things like that. So it doesn't mean you're going to be like one-on-one coached with her, you know, on a weekly basis, but mentorship can come in the form of one specific DM question where you're asking, you know, hey, how did you overcome this? Thank you, you know, or reading a book by a woman in business, you know, things like that. And those things can also help as well. Also taking mini breaks, my little quit for a bit sometimes helps. And then something that's helped me, I know this doesn't help everybody, but dressing to feel like I could play along with the boys helped me feel more confident in making my voice heard as well. So those are just a couple of things maybe that I will share with that. And thank you guys so much. And that's all that I have. So there you go.